Hello, welcome. Once again, I'm going to walk you through the homework exercise that I'd like you to do. This time we'll be working with the software program Audacity, which is a sound editor. I'd like you to do a podcast. That's a sound recording. They used to be more popular perhaps than they are now with all the video editing. It's going to be a little bit difficult for us to do a video editing exercise in this class because most of the video editing software is commercial, not free, but the principles are the same, working with a software application that deals with editing in time, unlike a photo editing application that is basically a static kind of a digital resource. So you'll be working with a project that works through time, so you'll see at least dealing with a timeline. Video applications are very similar in the way they work. And so the project is to do a voice recording, maybe 30 seconds to a minute worth. Under that, we're going to lay a soundtrack. You'll go and get an MP3 file, Creative Commons, using the search techniques we discussed a while back. And you'll layer that in so that we have a kind of a music intro. Then your voice track will go on top of that as we bring the music down, and then we'll bring the music back up at the end. That will give you some chance to experiment with a few of the tools that we use in the sound editor. I assume that you've watched the introductory lectures on Audacity, that you've got it installed, that you've looked at the tutorials, and you're basically familiar with the concept. So I'm just going to quickly walk you through what the exercise will look like that I want you to do. The first step is to record your sound, your voice track, what you're going to say. We're looking for about 30 seconds or so of audio track. Let's take a look just to quickly orient yourself. Here is the blank palette, if you will, onto which your voice will be recorded. Let's look at the controls. These are, as I'm sure you recall, pause, play, stop, beginning of the track, end of the track, and then record. Before you begin, a couple of things to watch out for. Make sure that you have selected the proper microphone. Here you can see that I've got several sources that I could choose from. I've selected my headphones. For the speakers, I've also selected my headphone. This is a little bit different setup than I usually use. I usually use for the video recordings a little bit better studio microphone, but I'm going to go ahead and use the headphones for this since I'm recording me doing a recording, and I don't want the sound coming out of my computer speakers. That would produce some feedback problems in this particular setup. So I'm going to be doing a recording through the headset, as I think you will. So make sure you've selected the right sound source. You probably are going to need to peg your recording volume. Here you can see the microphone. If you double click this, you can see the recording volume spinning. If you need to take that down, then you can adjust that accordingly. But in my experience using normal headsets, the recording volume usually needs to be turned all the way up, and in fact we may need to boost the voice volume when we get to the editing stage. The selection bars up here will make more sense. The selection tools, envelope tools, and so on. We'll play with those in a few minutes. Just note a few of the shortcuts up here. The cut, copy, paste, trim audio, silence audio, undo, and redo. We can zoom in on our selections, zoom out on our selections, and you can play around with these. This is partly for you to experiment with, as we do with some of the other software programs we'll look at. You should experiment. Here, the effects some of these will use. I think the new version you can see has maybe quite a few more effects than even the tutorials were showing you. So play around with these as you go through this exercise. So the first thing to do is to record our video track. When you're all set to go, We're going to hit the record button. I'm going to record about 30 seconds of the Gettysburg Address. That'll give us something to play with. So we'll get started. So I'm going to hit the record button, read a bit of the Gettysburg Address, and then I'll show you how we can play around with that. So, ready, set, go. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. All right, so that'll be about enough, and you'll notice I did a little bobble there, so we're going to show you how you can edit the soundtrack. Let's play that back and see what we've got. So I will go back to the beginning here and play that back, and we can zoom in, by the way, on this to get it all into one spot here. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. All right, so you can see that we've got our waveform here. We've got a little bit at the beginning we can trim out with our selector here. So let's just take this and edit cut. That part's gone. Let's see if our beginning is clean now. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the So here is our little bobble right about in this area here, and what we need to do, I started it over with the word and, so we want to find out where the and is here, cut out that section so we have a smooth transition. So in order to cut out something like that, let's zoom in and see it's going to start about right dedicated to the so we're starting right about here. So dedicated to the So we're right about here, I think. Dedicated. So the section we want to cut out is this section right here. And we want to cut it out from here to here. This is where our and started, and this is where the other and begins. So we're going to go ahead and make this trial cut, and we're going to see how that goes ahead and liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war. All right, so we've made that cut. And let's then see how we've got for the whole selection here. Let me zoom back out so we can see our selection here. Play that section over one more time to make sure we've got it looking good. Start a continent, a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing. All right, so we've got the cut set. Now I think in the tutorials that you watched, they showed you how to do some noise reduction, some compression, some of the other effects. I'll let you play with that on your own to get this cut just exactly the way you wanted it. But now it's time to go ahead and pull in the music track. And to do that, we're going to import. We don't want to open it because that would open up a new project. But we want to import the track and get it set. So I've picked one out here. I'm going to do File, and I'm going to do Import. And I'm going to import audio. I've got one picked out on my desktop here, MP3 files of type, and I've selected this sort of jazzy track here. I'm going to open that, and that's going to import the project here. Let me now kind of squeeze all this up so we can see everything at the same time. Remember, you can pull all these up and narrow them down a little bit so you have some workspace here. And what I'm going to do is mute the voice track for the time being so we don't hear that, and just give a listen to our music track starting from the beginning here. And I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit. And I can tell you right now, let me stop that. I'm planning on starting it up here a little bit where after this introduction. So let me fast forward a bit here. So I'm going to start it right at this point here, where it after the introduction, and of course your music tracks will vary, but I'm just showing you this to give you a little bit of the idea of the technique. So let me zoom in even just a little bit more so I get this right where I want it. So basically, I'm going to start from here in and cut out this. Oops, I just want to cut it out of this track here, not the top track. Be careful when you do that. And we're going to do, we can hit the scissors there and cut that. So now I've cut that out of the beginning. Now what I would like to do is have about 15 seconds of the introductory track before the voice starts. So here is where we move our time shift. Using our time shift tool, we move this voice track over so that the voice track will start after about 15 seconds of music introduction. So I use the time shift tool and simply shifted the voice section over so it starts about 15 seconds after the music begins. And now if you recall, what we want to do is we want to do a fade in because that's a pretty sudden start. So fade in and then fade out and then have the music quiet as the voice is talking. And then about 15 seconds of music after, which means I can take all the rest of this music track and delete it. So we're going to stop about here. Let me reselect my standard cursor tool and here at about the 45-second mark, what I'm going to do is mark all of the rest of this and cut this out. So we can go ahead and clip that. And now what we've got is a total of about 45 seconds. We're going to do a raise and diminish here at the beginning, and we're going to make it quiet here in the middle, and then we're going to do raise and diminish here. So the first thing is to do about 5 seconds on the music of fade in, and then we're going to do a fade out at the end. And then we're going to use the contour tool to make this quiet in the middle and perhaps even bring the voice up. So the first thing we're going to do is take about 5 seconds here. Let's get that all the way to the beginning and effect, and we're going to do a fade in. And you can see that that contours that, fades it in. And then at the end, about 5 seconds, we're going to do a fade out. That'll be effect, and we're going to do a fade out. And then the rest of it we're going to use as a contour. And the contour here is the envelope tool. What that does is allows us to make points here that we can use to shape the music here. And so we can start pulling this down. And what we're going to do is we're just shaping this line. So the volume will come down here. And it'll be quiet. And then it'll come back up. And then it'll fade out completely at the end. So you can see what's going to go on here is that the music will fade in. The relative height here is the volume. As the voice starts, it will get quiet. We don't want it to get too quiet. We want to hear a little bit of the music here. And let's see how that's sounding here. So we'll put the, let's get our regular cursor back. Put the cursor right about here. All right, you can see that's faded fairly nicely, and it's playing in the background. And now let's see how that sounds with the music. So we'll unmute the voice and put it about here. Let's try this from the beginning and see how that sounds. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation. And we might even raise the voice a little bit. Let me bring that up a little bit. All men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. So that's pretty good. We might actually even, let me mute this again. I think we might go back to the envelope tool here and perhaps, bring this up even a little bit more so we have a little bit more dramatic ending. So you can come back and play with this. Let's try that at the very end here to see how that worked. And let's try that again with the voice to see. Or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. All right, so I think that probably is good. You can play with this around a little bit more. You can, depending on how closely you want to strive for perfection, I would probably work on it a little bit more. The music around here gets a little bit quieter anyway, just due to the piece selection. At any rate, now is the time to save your project. So there are two things you need to do. First of all is to save your project, and you can give the project a name. So here I might just go ahead and save it to my desktop. Now, as the warning here notes, saving the project saves this as an Audacity project. This doesn't save it as an audio file, but you want to save the project in case you want to come back later and edit it. If you just save it as a music file, you can't come back and edit all these things. So go ahead and save it as an Audacity project first. So if you want to, you can come back and edit it. I'm going to just save it as my 571 project on the desktop. And now if you want to come back and maybe you want to fiddle around with this envelope more or do something else, that's fine. But now you also need to save it as a music file. So when it comes time to save the file as a music file, you would want to export the audio. You can export it as an MP3. You have your choices to basically your choice here would be stereo, and then you have your choice of quality, and the quality would be 128 is kind of a average quality for an MP3. When you get up into the 256 or 320, those would be high quality MP3 files. You can say OK here. And then the name of your project, whatever you wanted to call it. And then you can say your tracks will be mixed down to 2 stereo channels. That's fine. And then you can fill in some metadata here. It will probably pick up metadata from the music file that you imported, but you can override that with your project name, artist name, track number, and so on. So this is standard metadata that can go into an MP3 file. Go ahead and save that, and it will export the file. And then there you go. That's it. The MP3 file is what I'd like you to upload to the Dropbox. That's pretty much it, except to tell you that you have an opportunity to play around here, and so experiment, and I hope you find it an enjoyable assignment. So thanks for watching.